you've been a big Apple supporter for a long while, but you
Oh
don't
yeah.
use their software. How do you
No.
like? How do you go about like choosing the software or the apps that you use? And is there any software or apps that you use most at home and work?
hmm Yeah, I think Apple is by far the best like hardware company out there. Like they are a product like company. Like yeah, if you think about their all their product releases back to when Steve Jobs was still around, it was always a new physical hardware device, whether it was the iPad, the iPhone. These days, like they just relaunched like new iMacs, things like that. Like they're physical products, right? They have industrial designers. You know, Johnny Ive was a staple there for his design, and it was primarily product design. Um, and I think they they put more time, effort, resources into product design as opposed to software design. And so I do think that other firms out there, particularly Google, who are hard software companies, are better at it than Apple because they were started as a software company. Google started as a search software, and then they got into Gmail, and now they're into G Suite, which I happen to love, and I think it's a superior product than Apple's Pages or whatever their spreadsheet is. I have no
Yeah.
idea. But Microsoft Excel is just miles ahead of Apple. And also when I was starting out in my career and have been, I've just always worked for early stage startups. And the software tool for early stage startups is the G Suite, is Gmail, is Google Docs, is even like Google Slides and things like that. So my professional life, my personal life runs on Google software, but on an Apple device, the iPhone, which is one of the, I think, cleanest and best designed products that is and has been ever created. And it's pretty crazy how successful the iPhone has been from its start and continues to be. It really is crazy. But yeah, I've been an Apple fanboy, and I really only use in terms of like Apple software, I use iMessage just because you kind of have to. I use Notes, the weather app, love their weather app. And then kind of their photos, but honestly, I do tend to use Google Photos more. And then, yeah, for all my other software, it's Gmail, Chrome, Google Maps. I mean, Google Maps is also like 10x better than Apple Maps.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though I have heard that it's gotten better, I just have been using Google Maps for my entire life, so I'm not going to switch over at this point. Obviously, Google Search, the cloud. I primarily use
do you use iCloud?
I do, but just to back up all my like iMessages and photos. That's pretty much it. Everything, every time, like when I start a new document, whether it's like a Word doc or a spreadsheet, I'll just go into Google Drive and just start doing it from there. And then I use the Drive app on my phone too.
How do you're talking about documentation and stuff before. How do you, something I'm thinking about and trying to organize is the digital organization of files in my life. Like, you could have like a physical copy, although that's not kind of a rare thing now, but I'm paranoid. Like I'll use an external hard drive and then I want to put it somewhere on the cloud. I want like multiple sources of where everything is, but then it's like, oh, that one's updated, but I forgot to do that one. And do you have any strategy for how you go about organizing digitally?
Yeah, well, my digital assets, files, whatever, much more simpler than yours because you pretty much like a media agency at this point. With your podcast, your videos, and everything else. So I imagine you have to pay for iCloud or Google Storage, and back up everything there, and then have your own external hard drives. And that's what I remember when I was taking a lot more like photography, obviously takes up a lot of space. And I had an external, and this was before I'd say mass adoption of like iCloud and Google Drive. And I lost my external and just like crushed me. And so that's kind of what I guess, inspired me to get iCloud so I could back up all my photos. But most of the assets and media that I care about are photos that I take, which are backed up on iCloud now and Google Storage. So I pay for both of those monthly fees. But I don't have anything external. It really is in the cloud, but it updates, I think, on a daily basis. I have an update. But yeah, for like media agencies and moguls such as yourself, I imagine that's a tricky process, but and probably an expensive one. Maybe it's getting expensive for like hosting and like media storage through. Do you use iCloud or Google?
Let's see. I have Dropbox, iCloud.
Okay.
I do have a Google one, but I might have to increase it soon. That's why I'm trying to figure all this out. And then in the fall, I upgraded. I bought 2 external hard drives. One's filling up very quickly. It's just a lot of stuff.
Data storage, it's no joke. I can't imagine like what I think people who like create TV shows or movies and like how they store all those files and things like that. Those are like massive files. But it is interesting. It really is like library of information, right? And how do you document things and categorize things? And also the naming of files. Like, do you have a specific way you name your files? I know a lot of art directors and designers do this with their different variations, but do you have a system in place of naming all of your content and files?
Sort of. I'm becoming more and more aware of the benefit of doing it. But it could always get better. Like that's not something I'm good at. Like with my personality and stuff, organization is not great. But I just know in my head where things are, going through like all these rabbit holes of folders. But it could get better. So I'm curious about that question.
I wish I had more experience in that, but
that's something too where it's go ahead.
No, you just have a much more complicated library of content than I do.
It's stuff like that too. It's so important, but when you're doing it, it feels like you're just wasting your time because there's no like concrete like effect of your work in a way. And so it's like, I'd rather spend my time doing this rather than like organizing all my files so that it's clear and ready to go for anybody's use. And
but I feel like that's kind of like the process, like athletes always talk about practicing or like loving the process. Like I feel like that's part of the process of becoming a pro, right? That like separates you from the wannabe podcasters, the wannabe YouTube people, right? It's those small things, it's those day-to-day things that do set you apart. And that's something that I've been trying to apply in my professional life with my team, is like doing those things that make you feel and look like a professional, right? It's almost kind of like faking it until you make it. And I feel like that's a good example of like just executing the process of like naming the files, organization. Again, like that's not going to show up in the stat sheet, but maybe that's going to separate you from, again, all these wannabe podcasters, these wannabe YouTubers, which I think you do so well in so many other areas with your YouTube channel and your podcast. Like I can see the professionalism improve almost on a weekly basis. But it really is that process and those like nitty-gritty details that no one wants to do, but it shows up in the long run, I feel.
Yeah, the process.
Trust the process.
We talked about it on this podcast before. Nick Saban has been a big influence on me recently, and like that's his entire thing is the process.
I think I listened to that pod. Was it Saban and Pete Carroll?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one. What one was that? Well, shout out for the readers.
Somewhere in the 70s, probably. Episodes in the 70s.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized on me. It's you can find it in YouTube too under the books section. Yeah, the process.